Item B, public comment period. Anybody wishing to make any comments?
I did sign in, but
Did you? Okay. Is it on the, is it an agenda item or?
well, are we on here?
Just a minute. It's a school edition. We'll hold you to the second comment period. Because the first comment period is items on the agenda.
That's fine. Thank you.
Okay. Now we have approval of committee minutes. Who made the motion? Any questions or comments on the minutes? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Now, the next item is a discussion of a Dewey engineering proposal. Now, it'll take a few minutes because it was just received, I believe. So you want to look at the proposal that we don't have any leader in that, we'll just have to discuss it on our own comments. So have a chance, take a chance to look at it and see if we have any comments or on the proposal. Dave? Yes.
So in our discussions with, prior to the action taken by the board terminating EI Associates, we are now having to take a step back. We have been consulting on several occasions with Dewey Engineering, our construction manager, and we are going to be needing them to do some more work in preparation for the next steps in the project. We received this letter last week from Arif Fazil, principal at Dewey Engineering, and as he explains in the letter, the need that the school district is looking for in the services that we will require of Dewey is really outside the scope of their original contract. We hired them to do pre-construction work on a limited basis, the 60 and 90% review. We review the bids. The main part of their services was going to be during the construction. So now that we're at this new point in the project, we are going to be needing them to assist us in. And you can see there's 8 things that they're looking to help us with, and one of those is to help us define and find a new architect. So what they're proposing is that they would bill us on a time basis based on the rates that were approved in their contract, up to but not to exceed $75,000. So our plan was to share this with the board tonight, get some feedback, and hopefully put them on the agenda for approval of this additional scope at the September 10th meeting.
Gwen?
I have a problem.
You didn't have to have anything like this before.
Can't hear you. We didn't have to have anything like this before when we were embarking upon the project. And I look at the hourly rate, and sometimes I question that, because if I look at the list of staff that could be potentially involved in that, it's going to be quite a hefty hourly bill. If we have a principal, a senior project manager, I don't know how that will be determined and who would put the limitations on how many people would be involved in an hourly basis. But I'm sure it's not just going to be one person reviewing whatever the task is that we ask of them. So I'm really having a little bit of a problem. We've spent a lot of money already. And we have to really look at what we're doing and be very careful. So what would this look like? How many people would be involved? What would it be, the cost per hour? How many hours would it take? I know it's capped at $75,000, but still, we're looking at every penny right now. And we didn't use this kind of service before.
No, you're absolutely right. We have not, but this is sort of an exceptional time in the project. We do believe we're going to need Dewey as we travel down the road with EI if it heads into litigation, as well as using them to help us review the options that we may have with the project to get it back on track and within budget. I know we have John Hartman here from Dewey Engineering. Do you know how I know it says in the contract that all the hours have to be pre-approved.
That's correct.
Right. So,
And who is involved? Primarily on the, I'll call it the day-to-day activity, even though it's not every day we're working on the project, only as needed, as requested by the district for assistance in helping coordinate some of the items that need to be done. You do have access to our entire staff. We have mechanical engineers, electrical engineers. We do estimating, the whole gamut. So depending on what needs to be done to help out, to get you the information that you need, depends on what staff members would be working on the project. I would be the primary contact, or Reef Design, myself would be the primary contact, but that's not saying we'd be doing all the work.
And you're considered the senior, are you considered the?
I'm the senior
principal
project
Or the
manager.
senior project manager?
Yeah,
And
that's
Arif
correct.
is the principal?
That's correct.
Any other questions? Yes,
I have a couple problems with this. First of all, I don't know that we as a board have decided that we're going to go ahead and do this project. So when you're saying assist with the selection of a new architect, that sounds to me like we're going to move ahead. And I don't know that the board's given, unless I missed the meeting, we haven't given that authority to administration. Second of all, there's here, assist with evaluating the new options and budgeting for the project, including evaluation of the 1938 building. Are we back to doing that again? We already had that evaluated. We went through how many meetings and people in the community being upset. Now we're going to evaluate it again. Gathering data, a site plan, traffic study, and other reports that can be used as the project continues. I don't know that we said we wanted to continue. And I don't think the public wanted it to continue. What I heard from the public was, let's go back to the drawing board and see if A, we need it. Let's look at the numbers. Let's not build such a monstrosity in the center of town. So I have a lot of problems with this one. And getting it at the last minute before a meeting gets to start, $75,000 to some in the scope of what we already spent doesn't seem like much, but it's a lot of money. And if the board's going to give administration permission to go ahead, then I guess I have to be quiet, but I'm not. Thank you.
Any other questions? Yes, Tom?
Yeah, I thought about that a little bit as I read this too, and I think this addresses two things. One is possible help with litigation, which I think our actions may require that. And second is moving forward with the project and the step backward that we have to take if we're going to do that. So there's two pieces here, but it also says, they said as requested by Boyertown Area School District and that the board of directors authorizes for the project. So I would say that even if we say this is good, and later we say we don't go forward with this project, then this is just null and void, except maybe for the activities to support litigation if necessary, correct?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's just to offer, have as a resource to the school district the use of Dewey. If we decide not to continue with the project, then obviously we will incur no additional cost, with the exception of what you said, their professional opinion as far as the EI Associates contract goes. But this is just on an as-needed basis to get us through to the next part of the project if the board decides to go forward with it.
So if we want their services, any of these services, then the board would approve you asking for those services first, or you would go ahead and have the services and then come back and tell us?
Well, I think it would depend on the situation. I mean, if it would be something that we could get pre-approval, or if it was something that we needed and it was the week that we didn't have a facilities committee meeting, it would be something that we would probably put in the newsletter saying that we used Dewey to do this, and this is how much it was going to cost.
Thank you.
Yes, Joe.
I agree with Mrs. Daroff. At this time, I think we ought to decide where we're going before we decide who we're going to hire.
Yes, Steve.
Yeah, having just gotten this and looking it over, just off the top, I would say a couple things. I get it as far as helping clean up the mess, shall we say, that the architect left us, and that's kind of like step one. So I get that, and that they could be a real asset for us, obviously. Step two, I'm basically kind of thinking the same thing. That's kind of second piece. Are we going to move forward or not? We have a new dynamic superintendent. We have new eyes on this. We learned a lot from as far down the road as we went. And it's time to kind of regroup, maybe go back to the drawing board and all. So I guess what I'm thinking is almost proposal one, to clean up the mess, so to speak, or where you might need where we might need assistance, and step two, based on where the new administration, what the new thinking may be, and where we're going ahead with a project or not, or going down another road because we have 4 plan cons in there. That would almost be a proposal two, would be my thought.
Anyone else?
I just want to make a couple of comments. In terms of the reason for requesting some of these services goes to the point of some of the mistakes that we may have made in the past in terms of our relationship up front with the architect, and not having a construction manager in place to make sure that the information that we're bringing forward is accurate, so that the board has information that is reliable when they make their decisions. And we've heard the figures that were shared by EI at the beginning of the project, and all along what the board was told in terms of this project. We brought the construction manager on board, and the construction manager, Dewey, very quickly realized that the direction that the district was headed was in no way doable based on what our architect was telling us. So in this approach, it allows the district to control the spending and the services that we ask for from our construction manager. But it also gives us reliable information moving forward should we have questions that need answers. Whatever the direction is decided by the board in what we pursue in the future, we need good information, and we need experts in the field like Dewey to help us make sure that we have accurate, reliable information. moving forward. So that's my point of view.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes.
Well, with all due respect, Dr. Bailey, I don't think that has anything to do with, to assist with the selection of a new architect. If we're gonna vote on this, there gotta be certain, from 1 to 8, things taken out of here before I vote on it, because this gives administration an open pocketbook here. Preparation and anticipation of future architect assignments, assist with the new architect. This is all full of going ahead with the building plan, and I don't think that you're gonna have 9 people on the board to do that. And I certainly don't wanna expend any money. As far as anticipated services, number 1, yes, we will need them. And I think that would be up to the attorney to decide what information we needed, not us, because if we go that route. So I don't see, and I don't know what information they could give us with EI that another architect is gonna take without us certifying that it's good information. I don't see the need for any of this right now, sorry. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
Mr. Sabowski, do they have, does Dewey have like 2 types of contracts, or is this one a particular proposal specific to what was spelled out? In other words, do they have like a retainer contract? In other words, to be utilized through litigation, the services that they performed for us, you know, excellently in the past? So is there a way to at least have a retainer for them in that sense, for services that they would need to provide to?
Well, this is in effect what you're talking about is a retainer, because what we executed prior, you know, with the project was the scope is very, very narrowly defined as pre-construction services and review of drawings and budget. The bidding documents, the construction services, and a little bit as far as post-construction. That is what we agreed to as a board to bring Dewey on. That they're only putting this on the table for an as-needed basis and not for any other services as a resource for us as we move forward or don't move forward. If we don't move forward, obviously we're not going to get anywhere close to the $75,000.
So in other words, the listed 8 items would be examples of possibilities of how they would use, we could use them on this retainer.
Correct.
Any other questions or comments? Yes.
Just a comment. I can understand why you're requesting this. I understand that. I think that probably my concern is, for lack of better explanation, kind of being burnt already on with the architects. And I feel the need to know when you're going to expend the monies on whatever you're going to expend them on. And I know that's not something we usually do as a board, but I just, for some reason, I feel that I need that obligation, I have that obligation, that feeling for the community to say, I am looking at this as a board member very carefully. I'm not going to let anything happen again. So I'm wondering if that's a possibility. I could go along with it as long as I knew in advance and could approve the expenditure of the money. And I know that's not how we operate.
I mean, we could do our best. I mean, when they have meetings set up with Fox Rothschild, obviously they're going to be scheduled in advance. Will we know exactly how many hours they're going to be spending with the attorneys? I don't know. We can tell you the type of activities. We can get the pre-approval that we would give EI and the date and say that this past, you know, in your Friday packet, this past Wednesday, EI met with Paul Grenewald to review the old building, or you know, but whatever, and you know, and hopefully Dewey would be share with us how many hours and at what rate they would be charging us. So we could give you that detail. So, sometimes it might not be before the action.
Okay, I can understand that. Would you know how many people were involved? Because, I mean, their hourly rates, that's going to add up very fast. So would we be able to know how many people would be involved in the activity also?
It's really going to depend on the task that you would like us to perform to assist you with, primarily. We're here just to be help to the district and to the board. Our feeling is the last thing you want to do is hire another architect pay out more fees and more money before you really have your educational program or decision on what you want to do. We're here to help give you some of those answers, to help you decide what you want to do as a professional resource. We're here to work with you and protect your interests and no other reason.
Thank you.
You know, so it's like Dave said, it's a retainer in a sense that when you need our assistance, you need our professional opinion, you need an analysis of some of the ideas you may have with the administration, we can offer that based on our experience.
See, I understand the litigation part, because to me, they're the group. They're the ones who found the error, and thank goodness you found it when you did, that we didn't get into any construction, you know, put the bids out and all this. But the rest of this, I really feel we need to have time as a board to talk about where we're going now. Doesn't mean, I'm not stating this saying I'm not for the high school project. I just think we're all feeling burnt right now because this was the community's money, and now we're caught in a situation here where we know the problem. I mean, the elementaries over on the east side are expanding. There are close to 800 now, and so something has to be done. We know that. But we need to be able to have time to look at that. And I guess, I think when Mrs. Deroff asked that question, and it was like, well, if we just want them to do this, you know, we may not have time to get your permission for the expenditures. Now, maybe that was just for the attorney's thing, but if it's for everything else here, and we haven't discussed this, to make sure that we're really clear on where we're headed now. I think I have the same concerns then with this contract. It isn't that I don't trust you. I mean, the guys from, they were here in front of us. We trusted them. We were convinced that this was the right way to go. And now, you know, I'm beginning to think, but I still see the need. That's the problem. We're facing a huge need for facilities of some sort here because of our elementary situation that's increasing. And the need of the high school that needs renovation as well. So we're facing some real issues, but we need time to talk about that before we get into all these other responsibilities or anticipated services.
I also see the need for Huey to help us if we go into litigation. So I have no problem with number one. But as far as any of the other numbers on here, and especially if we're not asked ahead of time, I don't even know that this board wants to do this. And so I don't know where this list came from, whose idea it was, but like Ron said, we need time to discuss this, time to see where we're going, get some fresh numbers. Sure, we have problems with the elementary, and maybe that's where we should start, not the high school. So if we're going to restrict it to number one, which then it's not up to us either, it's up to the attorneys what they need. They will deal directly with them. So I don't even see the need for this at all. Thank you.
Yeah, as I dive into this a little deeper, again, I still, and I appreciate Dewey coming to the table. I mean, it sounds like they're trying to help and offer their services, okay. But I still see two parts. Part one, maybe even three parts, but certainly part one that's listed on here encompasses the first sentence. But then as I look down, assist with evaluating new options and budgeting for projects. Their expertise may come in handy in helping us decide what we do. Whether it's the high school or, again, we had other roads to go down to address the growth on the east side of the district. So because at this point, we have the facility study that EI did. Obviously, we have to call into question the accuracy of their numbers that they put together at this point. So your expertise, your company's expertise may assist us in helping decide. So again, I'm kind of looking at, if I go down 1, 2, 3, and 4, I kind of go, okay, that could help us maybe make a very good decision with some experts that we didn't have before. And then based on where we go from there, what we decide as a board, then we look at 5, 6, 7, and 8 and consider, okay, let's hire a new, assist in a new architect, assist with gathering data, blah, 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 blah. That's kind of way I'm looking at this, just again, off the top. I did have one detailed question. Where's your office located?
We're in Bethlehem,
And
on East Broad Street.
does the hourly charge include travel time to
It does
Boyertown?
include travel time,
It does include travel time. Well, I got a problem with that, but that's my opinion. Thank you.
but not reimbursable expenses per se.
Well, it is obvious that we need more time to describe this. But the one thing I got out of the discussion tonight was that it appears that we're addressing the design that EI gave us, and we're looking at maybe that's not the proper design. And so a lot of the things we have on here need to be reevaluated. The problem that we have is overflowing of students. We have to provide some relief. This was one offering of relief that came from EI. And therefore, I'm open to anything that will give us relief for the educational system. This is the one that was offered to us, and it looked reasonable, and I could accept it. And that's why I went with it, except when it blew out of proportion, it was unaffordable. It's like I'd like to have a Cadillac too, but I can't afford one, so I have to have a Ford. So what I'd like to do is, since we just got this tonight, Donna, we talked about having a meeting on the 3rd of next month. Could I overrule that? Yeah.
For the ad hoc committee?
Yeah. Or we could make it later, but I'd like to have another meeting next week. So all of us, you have your copies now. You can digest it next week. We won't catch you by surprise. What? 2 weeks. 2 weeks. All right. So I'd like to hold this item until 2 weeks. In the meantime, I would like, if you would, take a look at it and digest it more so. But I want to keep in mind that we talked about the project moving forward. The project is to relieve our congestion in schools, not necessarily the one that EI offered us. So as far as I'm concerned, it's all open, and that should be something that we can discuss in 2 weeks. All right? Any questions? Anybody can't make it?
What time?
About noon till 5 p.m. No, make it about, you want 5:30? 5:30?
John,
Yes.
then we can probably have the ad hoc committee meeting after that.
Okay, all right. What? For the ad hoc? What?
Well, 6 would be,
Is 5:30 a problem?
it usually.
It is, okay. Well, we are flexible. If that's a problem and you can't make it at 5:30,
I think that should work. 6 works better. I mean, 6 is,
what about the rest? You want to set it for 6? And me, okay. What? Yes.
Could I clarify something, please? Steve said about the numbers that we got from EI of the students, of the, no, it wasn't the course, the numbers for the kids. Is that what you were talking
No,
about?
I was talking about their estimates to.
Okay, because they used the same numbers that another firm used, so they were okay. All right.
Yes. When Steve raised the question about mileage, that we would not have known that mileage was not included in here. And maybe Mr. Zablowski could make sure, talking to Huey, that if there's anything we're missing here, that would be additional. Because I'm looking at that saying, gosh, if 4 guys were coming, or 4 guys, women, whatever, coming from Bethlehem, that's about an hour. It could be an hour back. So we just paid for 2 hours of services. Which right. Yeah. We wouldn't be this picky right now, but it's like we've
No,
gone
I
through, you understand.
Basically, what we're saying, this is really a supplement to our original contract, let's say. So all the, and I know there's no extra reimbursable expenses and things in our original contract. Those would all abide, our original contract would abide with this. He was just outlining, giving you a ballpark on that we're not going to exceed X amount of dollars, and we are on retainer just based on hourly fees, which is part of our original contract with the school district now.
Okay, just one clarification. If we're having our facility meeting in 2 weeks and the board meeting in 3 weeks, since nobody seemed to have a problem with number 1, if the attorneys need to talk to Dewey in the next 3 weeks, is the committee okay with reimbursing them for the time spent for that purpose?
Well, we can't stop that.
They
Why
could,
would we
they,
have to have a con-
they could refuse to cooperate with the attorneys.
Because they're not in agreement.
Because they're not getting paid. They're worried about getting paid.
I would agree that it's a good idea to have a gentleman's agreement that we would pay them the appropriate rate of the, I mean, if it starts that fast with litigation, we can have experts.
For the specific purpose of
That
legal
specific purpose.
something.
I think that's really important.
We want to put that on item 1 on the agenda next week. When board approval?
Well, we're not going to approve it on the third, we'll approve it on the 10th.
I mean, this is, item 1. Would you want to approve this one item? What? Okay. All right. Well, as it is, Ralph, we'll be meeting again on the 3rd, 7 o'clock, for more further discussion on this item. I realize that it came late, we didn't have much chance to digest it, and I guess I gave you 20 minutes, should have had 20 hours. So, okay, next item up on the agenda then is the Bash Auditorium. I guess Paul's going to give us?
Well, yeah, I'm going to help Paul. What we have on the agenda tonight, you'll notice there's an action item to ratify some professional remediation services at the Bash Auditorium. As we explained to the board in several newsletters over the last week or so, that there was some mold discovered, and we have taken the swift actions to get that remediated with it being so close to the beginning of the school year. So I just wanted Paul to talk about how the remediation is going very briefly, and ask for your support of the ratification of the contract that's on tonight's agenda. You have any updates, Paul?
Well, yeah, we are almost, in fact, I think they are complete with the remediation process. We started on Friday. We put in some desiccant dehumidifiers, got the air out, put some negative air machines in to filter the spores out of the air and exhaust them out of space. And they brought in a team of about 25 guys. We have gone through, we had an indoor air specialist do some air sampling for us to determine the problem. They recommended a protocol for the cleanup procedure. We modified that and went out for bids. We got 3 bids, 2 quotes. Took the low quote, and they were there Friday, Monday, and Tuesday, and basically at the end of the day they're done. We have more air sampling scheduled for tomorrow. Hopefully the air sampling will be clean from what we saw before. At that point in time, they'll take out their desiccant dehumidifiers and move the negative air machines in for a day or 2 to finish filtering the air. And then we'll reoccupy the did spend a lot of time with our people once we immediately saw the problem. But the air sampling showed that we didn't correct it totally, and that was the reason, one reason why we went back in and did some much more thorough cleaning of the spaces. Space is probably cleaner now than it was when they turned it over to us 20 years ago, based on what I saw.
And in talking to several school districts across the state, with the amount of rain that we've had and the change of the humidity, this is not an uncommon problem for a lot of school districts. So we have addressed it quickly. We have communicated the problem to our insurance company, and we are having the insurance company professionals come out to look at what the cause might have been and to see if it's an insurable event. So we're hoping that that can help defer some of the costs.
Did we turn the air conditioner off in that building during the summer?
The air conditioning goes off at night after the occupied time frame is over, whether it's 6 o'clock.
But it wasn't off all summer.
No, because the auditorium was used through the first half of the summer. It was turned off intermittently, but the mold was not restricted to an area where we did or did not have air conditioning. We had occupied spaces where the air conditioning has been on all summer, again with the exception of turning it off at night, where we have found mold. So I don't think it's totally related to whether the AC is on or off.
All right, any other questions?
Okay, then we want to take the rest of the time that we have to update you on what's been going on in the schools over the summer. Paul has sent a nice picture show. If somebody could turn off the middle switch to see this a little bit better.
Here?
Yes. Thank you. Okay. It's not my office.
My office. No, it's not my office.
That's Paul's office.
No, it's not.
Secretary.
This is the updated approved list of projects that we were going to work on this summer, so I'm just going to tell you what we did get done and what we didn't get done. Briefly. This is a picture of the new carpet that we installed at Boyertown. There were the first list on first group of projects on the list were funded from the general fund, which was 2012, 2013 money that was budgeted. To date, at the top of that list, we have completed the purchase of new auditorium curtains for the senior high school, junior high west, junior high east, new lunch tables for senior high school, junior high west, Boyertown Elementary, junior high east, and Pine Forge. That was a total of 9. Window tinting in the classrooms at junior high west, installation of the new carpet at Boyertown, which is what the picture's all about. Replacement of water softener resins for one softener at New Hanover. The maintenance staff repaired the garage door at Washington, avoiding that cost. The window panels at Washington could not be replaced due to long lead time on the material, so that couldn't be funded from the general fund. And the roof drains, we didn't have enough money to do that repair, so that'll have to be rescheduled when funds are available. The second half of the list, which is the capital projects fund, there were some of the projects that have been completed. The first project that we worked on was at Gilbertsville. We've completed, this is a picture of the thermal scan of the roof. This showed all the areas in the roof that were wet, which was used for two separate roofing projects. Down in the lower right-hand corner, the area that's sort of shaded a little bit in yellow. That was the foam roof that was scanned separately to identify the wet spots. All the wet areas were scarified and removed. The scarified foam was primed, new foam was installed. New foam was primed, 2 layers of silicone coating, granules were sprayed onto the roof. We did install some new metal flashing, and a new expansion joint project is now complete with a cost of $52,975. That's a picture of some wet foam, which we saw in the areas that the thermal scan said would be wet, so that was all removed. And that's, they don't actually scarifying, they have machines that go in there and sort of grind it up and sand it away. So that, the whole center of the area, which is where the water drains, where the water lays, is the areas that typically we saw were wet, but there were other areas also. And that's, they prime it, it helps dry it out, if there's any residual moisture in it, and it also helps the foam to adhere to the new foam to the existing foam. So that's a prime example. And this is the new foam being sprayed down. And after that spray, it gets primed again. And then the granules get sprayed, which I don't have a final picture of that. But that project is complete. We do get a 10-year warranty on this roof, and hopefully, the existing foam roof lasted for about 20 years, so hopefully we'll get another 20 out of it. We'll see.
Hopefully that's what it used to look like.
This is actually the second project at Gilbertsville, which is the 1996 edition, where we've had a lot of leaks in the 10 years that I've been here. Not quite sure where all the leaks are coming from, and we've just done a lot of repairing these leaks, putting down special mastic at the seams, and working on skylights. Mr. Christmas can probably talk in more detail than I can about all of these, but so that thermal scan showed the areas that were wet. All the wet areas were removed. There was a total of about 6,000 square feet of wet roofing removed. Where the deck was rusty, like in that picture, we cleaned off the rust, primered it, and painted it. The areas where we removed the wet, we installed new insulation with a new recovery board. And then there were 2 plaza roofing put down in hot tar. This is, there were expansion joints installed between the changes in the roof elevation. Basically, it was a rubber belt that was laid down. It was low on the roof, so if we did have any ponding, that was one of our sources of leaks. So the new expansion joints have been raised up 12 inches, and they're done in copper, and so it's much better construction than what we previously had there. So we installed some new expansion joints. Most of the roof drains were lowered. The roof drains used to sit a little bit high. We had to break off the top of it and lower them down about 2 inches, which will then allow us to build a sump around that drain to help grab some of the water and help the roof drain a little bit better. So all the drains were replaced, and then they put new lead pans in and new roofing all around. So that's an example of one of the roof drains being redone. Some of the skylights, we had some leaks here and there. We never quite found out where they were coming from, but some of the flashing was pieced together. So we replaced that flashing, the metal flashing, with the new welded aluminum flashing, and then reset the skylight back down on the curb. The curb was also reflashed with the typical asphalt sheets that you would use to sort of heat it into place. That's an example of what was done with the skylights to hopefully make those a little more bulletproof. Then this is the final coating. After everything's done, the final thing we did was spray down. It's a coal tar asphalt mixture that's sprayed down. That's the black that you see in the left. And then the granules, which are typically the granules that you might see on an asphalt shingle, then sprayed on top to help provide some UV resistance to the coating that was put down. That project was complete on Tuesday, I believe, Monday, yesterday. So the roof at Gilbertsville shouldn't have any more leaking problems, hopefully. And we get a 10-year warranty on that roof also. Total cost is $330,000. The other project that we worked on was the repair of the asphalt playgrounds at New Hanover, Gilbertsville, and Boyertown Elementary, and some larger areas at Gilbertsville and New Hanover that were showing signs of failure. The work started. All large cracks were milled. Special crack repair membrane was installed. On the asphalt was rolled in place into those large cracks. Some of the smaller cracks were just filled with normal crack repair that we do. And then it was 85,000 square feet of roadway was replaced. 18,000 linear feet of large cracks were repaired, and 14,500 linear feet of minor cracks were sealed. This is the entranceway coming off of, at New Hanover, coming off the big road. This whole area was all alligator So it was all milled out and replaced as a 3-inch base coat and an 1.5 inch book on top of it. And all this work is complete. And there's some of the cracks, some of the larger cracks, we can go on both sides. You put special tape in the center that spans the cracks and hopefully keep it from propagating and telegraphing back up through. In the next picture, see where this is final asphalt that gets rolled down about 1.5 inches thick. And then we've started a few other projects. This is the basement stairwell at Pond Forge. The block wall was pretty busted up and actually starting to blow in. So we're getting ready in this section just to tear it out. It's been tore out and it's being relaid right now. It's probably completely done today except for the concrete cap and putting it on back and then backfilling the trench. So we have that work that's done. We're replacing the carpet in the LGI at Boyertown Elementary. That started yesterday. That's going to be done tomorrow. We have bought a new common neuter, which is the grinder for the waste treatment plant up at Earl Elementary. That's not in yet, but once that shows up, we'll drop that in place. It takes a few hours. And lastly, we purchased a new duplex water softener for Earl Elementary, and that is delivered but not installed yet. Hopefully installed next week. Usually I like to give credit to some of the maintenance guys for all the work that they do throughout the summer. So I got a few pictures here. I had a list of probably about 40 items that we completed this summer. I didn't want to bore you with that long list, but I can show it to you if you ever want to look at it. An example here is that we were having problems with a lot of the quarter tile at Coverdale. I guess it was just let loose after 30-some years or whatever. I think maybe some moisture coming up on the slab, whatever. So we replaced a big portion of that. And it's something that we'll do every year, probably for the next 5 years until we get that whole quarter replaced. But this is work that was done in-house. From a security point of view, Mr. Stout at Coverdale had requested that we actually move the second set of doors. There's 2 doors at the entrance. Move the second set of doors back, creating a larger lobby. Anybody that now enters the building gets into the building but can't get through the second set of doors unless they go into the office. This door we had to put new hardware on the door. We had to move the whole store front. Some of it was done inside, some of it was done by outside contractors. And then, so you go into the office, they then control the one door has a latch retraction on it, so they can open and close that door to let people then go into the building. And if you have a card reader, a box tag, you can go in through the reader that's on the left side there. So that project was done half in-house, half out. And you can see the nice shiny floors and staff there doing a great job getting this building clean too. And last but not least, again at Coverdale, because I was there with my camera, we built some new furniture, some storage racks for the music room so that it can be a little bit more organized with all the instruments that you see later on in the past. Again, that's just a small sample of about 40 projects that we've done throughout the summer with the maintenance done.
Any questions, comments? Yes.
I see under Pine Forge replacement DCS 8500 boiler controls, which wasn't done, but didn't we just get new boilers in there? Why, the controls are bad already?
No, the controller is more of the boilers have their own standalone control. The building itself, all the ventilators, all the exhaust fans operate out of an old pneumatic control system, which we still have in most of our schools. The pneumatic control system had it's like an overlay system put on it. It's a glorified time clock that will then energize E-to-Ps and other switches to make things turn on and turn off. The system that we have is 1980s vintage. We were hoping to update it similar to what we did at Washington Elementary, which is a new web-based control system. I can actually access it through my computer. You put in it a little computer actually, and it then does all the controlling instead of the old-fashioned time clock with some, programming from the 1980s. And actually, we have scheduled to do that at Pond Forge and Gilbertsville, but one of those schools is probably going to change. We'll probably do New Hanover first because we're having problems with that old controller. We can't work on it, we can't get replacement parts for it, so we have to then manually control the school. Turn things on and off the switches every morning and every night, which then creates problems because somebody turns the wrong switch.
So So if we rip any out, we better save the parts and we can repair what we don't have replaced. The other question I had was, on Washington, you said the roof drain repair was canceled because we had no money?
Because we didn't have enough money.
Okay.
In the general fund, I only have so much money for each school.
Right, so that was $5,000, yet we budgeted $718 and we only spent $682. The roof drains to me are important.
Yes.
Is it doing anything, damaging anything, going anywhere?
Not yet,
Because we got a lot more money left than $5,000.
in the capital projects fund, yes, not, that, my money, the general fund money runs out on July 1st. If I can't get it done by July 1st, and I couldn't get it done, I didn't have enough money to do all the things we want to do, then either I start to do 4 of them next year and 4 the following year, which is how we've been doing. We've done about 6 already, the worst.
Is there a problem with it though, but I'm
There's
asking,
a
could
problem
this
with the way,
damage?
there's a problem with the way the drains were installed. They're not leaking yet, but they will eventually start to leak if we don't do something, yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
I just wanted to compliment you, Paul, and thank you. I know that I've seen you running around the district trying to get all these things accomplished, and it's a lot to do in a short span of time when our students aren't here. And I know there's safety issues in that, so I appreciate your organization and all you've done with all of the custodial staff and their willingness to step up to the plate and save us a lot of money by actually doing things in-house. And that takes a lot of coordination and organization to have everything there when you need it. So I do appreciate that. You do a great job with that. Thank you. And the other thing I wanted to say is I'm so thankful you finally got that Gilbertsville roof done. So now Linda and I don't have to go up on that roof ever again. That's quite the story for you to hear. You'll find another one?
I like that.
So thank you.
Steve?
Paul, yeah, I just want to thank you and your team for the hard work over a hot summer, of course. So thank you for that. And I think truly doing more of this in-house ultimately saves the district money as opposed to subbing it out or contracting it out. I did just, a quick question, there's a few items that weren't completed. Are there plans to complete them, like the zero-turn mower and whatever? There were a couple others that, or some of these you just can't do.
No, with the capital projects fund, like the parking lot, like the junior high west, we've been looking at it, which style lights we want to put in. So we'll continue to work on that, and hopefully that will be done in-house. It's just not pulling down existing poles and putting up new poles and lights. The garage roof at Washington is up in the air. I'm not quite sure if we can do it in-house. If we can, we still want to do that. Zero-turn mowers just need to be bid and then purchased. Roof drain repair at Boyertown Elementary, again, it's not leaking. It's actually out over the back porch area, but it's an area where we have a lot of standing water. So that's something that can be, I need to take and get some competitive bids because it's a blow-up roof. It's not the kind of roof that we can work on. Tractor replacement upon porch, that needs to be bid, so that can be done. The 2 DSCs, hopefully, I have some pricing on that. I need to review with Dave how we're going to actually contract that work out. And then a new truck for my department to continue to replace the old ones. It's just a bid item. So most of the stuff can still be done between now and the next few months.
Thank you.
Yes. Any other questions? An observation here. I see that the asphalt was over estimate as because of the oil prices, I would imagine.
No, that's part of it, and it's also because we did some of the large repair that I felt, since I had a contractor on site, there was some economics in having them do some additional work. So I added that to the bid, knowing that it probably would come in a little over what we'd estimated, but there was additional work done.
And the other thing is, this was summer projects for last year. Now, when we were talking about the addition to the high school, we have a roof problem there that was going to be fixed under the building addition. Since that's up in question, can we delay that project, or think we got to get in the budget for next year?
But that's a good question. I don't know that if I can give you a solid answer. I'll just tell you that we will continue to repair that roof and we will keep that building as dry as we can. I mean, leaks happen, we address them, we fix them. You have a leak one place, tomorrow that you didn't know about, and you fix it, and 2 months later you'll have another leak. So we will continue to repair that roof.
It's at the point it should be replaced though, right?
It's near the end of its useful life, correct?
Well, we need to get some money in the capital budget fund to cover a project like that, because it's not gonna be another year or two because of the building addition. Any other questions or comments? Thanks for your time, and I also want to thank you. We have buildings that we're proud of because of you and your force. They're very clean. I have a lot of comments. I never had a negative comment about the condition of the building. So I appreciate what you've been doing and what you do. Thank you. Any other questions? Comments? Okay, next item. Public committee comments? Any committee comments? Public comments? Charles Haddad wants to talk about the school addition.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Crosley, board members, administration. There's two housekeeping matters I want to just bring up briefly. The first is that I belong to many groups in Boyertown, and I want you all to know, and the audience to know, I speak just for myself. I'm not speaking for other groups. In fact, my voice is so solitary and singular, I'm not speaking for Mary Lou tonight either. My wife. The second point I want to make is that Wednesday of last week, I received a call from Dr. Fadley's secretary, and she asked me if I would meet with Dr. Fadley and Mr. Miles. I bring this up as a matter of full disclosure that yes, I did meet with Dr. Fadley and Mr. Miles last Friday. It was a get-to-know-you session between us, and also for me to express some concerns I had over what's occurring in our school district and our community in particular. I think perhaps my concern was best expressed in the speaking point I made the last time I spoke. I normally try to have a speaking point, and the 4 times I have spoken to you, I've had a speaking point to try and leave with you. Last month when I spoke, my speaking point was a typing exercise that I had in 12th grade about now's the time for all good men to come to the aid of their country. And I changed that around in my final comment to say that now is a time for all good men to come to the aid of their community and do what is best for their community. I say that because this is the first experience I'm having with school problems in this administration. I've been involved in many things in our community, the church, but never the school. And I am concerned when I see this we and they mentality emerging at these meetings and with people that are appearing here. I don't think there's a villain in the we. I don't think there's a villain in the they. I think the villain is in the procedure and the process that has been developed for having these meetings. We are told to speak on item on the agenda. We don't always know what the agenda is going to be, and if we see the agenda item, we don't know the very complex facts and situations in the agenda. And then we're told you have 90 seconds. You give me 90 seconds to speak, and I am going to put a shot out there that's going to be a sound bite for tomorrow, be picked up by the paper and reporters. Or we have 3 minutes. You give me 3 minutes to speak, and I will give you 2 sound bites and 2 shots across the board to be picked up by the reporters for the newspaper tomorrow. we don't really get down to the issues and the concerns and be able to express them. Another reason we can't discuss them is because it's a monologue. We can only speak to you. You may not speak back to us. I have never seen a matter resolved where it's only a monologue. This is not the late night comedian show where they come out, Johnny Carson, all those others after him come out and they give you a 15-minute monologue and that's their show. If we cannot have a dialogue, we are never going to solve the issues and the problems. We're never going to have the support between the community that elected you and the administration. The first time I spoke, I said to you, I don't envy your position and your situation. It's a mammoth task. But we are not here to just take you apart on it. We'd like to share and know what is happening and why it's happening. The defining moment in this whole project was tearing down the old school. It's a great deal more complex than that. There are others in the audience tonight that do as much or more than I do in the community. Our mayor and Frank Deary, council president.
30 seconds.
I hope that one day, and I'm going to get to this if I may, I want to say that this school system is the crown jewel of our community. Every time we speak to people coming into Boyertown, be it new business or something else, we speak to them about our school district. We are proud of it. We're not trying to take it apart, but want to be part of you in learning what's going on and have you listen to our comments. And last week's meeting with Mr. Miles and Dr. Faith, I suggest perhaps we have a community meeting. Let us get together and let us speak about this in a dialogue and not a monologue. And I hope at that conference that we can have that I am given the stopwatch to hold, and that when you speak to Sablonsky, I can say 30 seconds. You're not bad people, and we're not bad people. And the short time I had to meet last week with Mr. Miles and Dr. Fagley, I think I got to know them better, and they got to know me. And I think my speaking past my 30-second deadline here lets you know that we do want to meet with you. We do want to resolve the issues here. Now my speaking point to leave with you tonight. I'm reading a book right now, and it's on Proverbs, not the biblical proverb, but rather the Proverbs of politics. And it talks about various leaders and the Proverbs they have spoken of. And the one chapter I'm on right now is probably our two greatest leaders from the last century, President Franklin Roosevelt and Prime Minister Winston Churchill. When England being attacked by Germany, we came to their aid. And when we were attacked at Pearl Harbor by the Japan, Prime Minister Churchill wrote to President Roosevelt, we are in the same boat now. And that's what I want to convey to you. We are in the same boat. It's our community, it's your community, it's our school, it's your school. And when I say we're in the same boat, now let me add to that proverb, let's paddle together. Thank you.
I'll give Charles my 3 minutes because I can't go after him. I'm standing here because I got a big mouth.
You have to sign up first then.
Yeah, I know, but you beat me to it. You threw me out of the first comment. That's not on my seconds here. Okay, I don't want to beat a horse to death. But I'm always amazed how people have no problem spending other people's money. They would think twice about it if it was their own money. They would do more research. You cannot go on spending the money we do not have. The whole board must take a larger role in the process. I have been reading old newspaper articles from when this whole thing began, and Dr. Betts was here at the time, and I think he was the one that brought EI in. I don't think it was put out for bid or anything. And I think that I heard tonight a board that is concerned, truly concerned, about what we're gonna do going forward. And you also have to remember the new board members that are going to be coming in and filling your shoes. Thank you.
Sorry, I left the board meeting early. I put my papers away. Okay, announcements, August 20th. As today, a board meeting, personnel at 6:30 in the Ed Center. Is that in conference room A? Right here. Okay. Later after that, we'll have a school board meeting here at 7 o'clock, hopefully. September 10th, Policy Review Committee at the library at the high school. September 10th, school board meeting at the high school new auditorium. September 17th, facility committee meeting here in the Ed Center. And we also have one coming September 3rd, 7 o'clock here in the Ed Center. 6 o'clock. September 17th, the finance committee meeting at 7 o'clock in the Ed Center. Motion to adjourn?